Shwmai Bethany, your last video was very fascinating, although I was quite surprised to learn that you do have lots of dreams, and I was quite surprised by the casual way in which you described them as nightmares. That is alarming.
Gilder, Kyoudai.
Are you aware that dreams about your teeth falling out are pretty common, and they are considered by the widely respected and credible science of dreamatological statistical psychology to represent anxiety, a costly compromise or decision, radical change, starting a new project or phase in your life. Well, I'm not convinced about any of that because I don't see that you started any new project of any kind, so...
Gilder, Kyoudai.
I very rarely remember dreaming. I'll wake up perhaps once or twice a year with the after images of dreams still available to me in my mind. The bigger problem for me is that I have trouble remembering things, and I end up with my memories being more like strange, dreamlike events. The best example of this is an episode of a podcast I created with the boys as The Acre, our comedy writing group. As you're aware, we've been making podcasts for years and years. There's probably about 130 episodes of various things in total, and they are largely straightforward, chatty affairs where we're just talking to each other, trying to come up with silly things and make each other laugh. There is, however, one episode which sticks out like a strange, twisted sore thumb. It was called The Tragycal Hiftorie of Edward Hans, and it was weird, and I have no memory of making it or of editing it. I know where the idea started. One year, my mate Kat decided that she wanted a Tim Burton themed birthday party, and as well as the DJ that she booked, she asked whether or not we would go and perform some comedy there, and we agreed. Because we were such excitable young fellows, and largely because we didn't actually have anything that we'd written already, we actually went and wrote a specifically Tim Burton themed piece. The Tragical History of Edward Hans is what happened, and the version that exists as a podcast is very difficult to explain. It's as if somebody drunkenly watched several Tim Burton films simultaneously on 7 or 8 different screens, and then at the end had to write the story believing that it was all one narrative. I've tried to write a blurb to explain this, so I'm going to read it to you now. Edward Hans is a poor creature who was tragically born with rubber gloves stuck on his hands. He therefore invents scissors to solve this problem. However, he can't cut them off himself, so he visits his friend Michael Deathnell, who he hopes could cut them off for him. However, Michael misunderstands and fears that Edward is trying to cut his hair off, and so Michael chases Edward into the woods in the middle of a horrific storm. In his hurried plight, Edward meets a number of oddly distorted and mutated Tim Burton type characters. Wee Herman P.
What's the scissor do? It cuts things, but safely. I can cut things, but safely, you know. I use it as a knife.
Alice, who runs a brothel named Wonderland.
Let me ask you a question. How'd you get here then?
Jack, the Punk King.
Oh yes, I forgot. You're the king of the Punk Kings, aren't you?
I'm the Punk King.
Jack the Punk King.
Jack the Punk King, that's what I am.
A poor chocolatier with a testicular issue.
Who can cut your end off? Cauterize the wound. Who can help a friend and knows exactly what to do? Edward Hans.
And an accident-prone, clumsy barber with a real interest in Edward's scissors.
I'm liking what you've got on your hands, sir. I could certainly do me some business, sir. I could cut people's hair without cutting their throats, sir.
It's one of the things we've made that I think would confuse and alienate the most people, but it's also one of the things that I am most proud of. For me, the highlight of this podcast was the dialogue between Edward Hans and Michael Deathnell.
Please, it's raining outside, Michael, and I haven't invented an umbrella. Please, Michael, please.
Oh, I'm coming!
What really elevated this dialogue is that we allowed the parts to be played by the same person.
Hello there, young Edward lad. Why have you come here in the middle of my tea?
Oh, well, I just needed a strong this.
I couldn't have waited, could it? No, my black pudding's gone all cold.
And rather than dub these separately, we had him play the character, switching back and forth in real time.
How long we been friends?
At least a decade.
Oh, 10 years too long if you ask me.
I've created something that could help me from my disability.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You're f***ing ugly.
So the aim of this episode was to be unsettling and creepy, and as Gethin jumps between the screaming of Michael Deathnell and the weeping of Edward Hans, you really feel his exhaustion and you feel like you're trapped in a horrific nightmare which is spiralling and dragging you down and not letting you escape. And I love it.
Give me those f***ing scissors, you f***ing prick. I never f***ing liked you, and then you went and made this thing, and then you f***ing set me in my f***ing dreadlocks. You f***ing bastard. I'm gonna f***ing have you.
Oh no, Michael, please, we've been friends for so long.
I've never been your f***ing friend. I've never f***ing liked you.
Oh please, Michael. Oh please, leave me go. I can't run anymore, Michael. I'm Michael.
Now you're f***ing gibbering wreck.
So I wanted to show you this today because I'm incredibly proud of it and I love it, even though it is incredibly flawed, both in terms of how loose it is and how poorly recorded it was. But I really want to do something similar to this in the very near future. But for today, I must leave you with two things as I am incredibly tired. So the first thing is farewell. And the second thing is that I hope you remember to always watch out for that lightning.
Come back here, you f***ing bastard. Give me those